chocolate. Do we have it? Oh, wow. Beautiful. Look at this. Look at all this variety. Warm chocolate cake with chocolate ice cream, chocolate bomb, little Napoleon. We got to make one of these. Look at this. This is gorgeous. Little chocolate torte with some nuts. We can do this. Even easier. Come on. I don't know about you, but I am a confirmed chocoholic. I find a way to end almost every meal with some kind of taste of chocolate. This is one of my favorite recipes because we not only get the great bittersweet chocolate flavor, but we end up with some wonderful textures and a little bit of fresh fruit. All I have here is a pie dough that I've rolled out and flavored with a little bit of cocoa powder. It's butter, flour, touch of salt, and a little bit of cocoa powder incorporated. So it's actually a bitter shell. There's really no sugar added. We're going to carefully unroll this on top of a tart ring. Don't really even need to treat this with anything. We don't have to butter this or anything because there's enough butter in the dough. It'll just come off as we bake it. So we're going to line the inside here carefully. We can trim away the excess pastry dough. And the process is really nothing more than baking this off. This is really the only oven work I will require in putting this together. The rest is just making a fantastic chocolate ganache, and it becomes the filling. I sometimes refer to this as a refrigerator chocolate cake because most of it's going to be done in the refrigerator. I'm going to take our trimmings here, our scraps. We can set these aside. And all I really need to do at this point is line this with a piece of aluminum foil and go ahead and bake it off. 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. The aluminum foil, of course, will prevent this from shrinking up. It will also prevent it from browning too much. And the result is going to be a nice, crunchy, full-flavored, I sometimes refer to this as an adult flavor, bitter chocolate tart shell. So that's ready to go. We can place this in the 350-degree oven. There. And while that's going, we can go ahead and get our ganache filling ready. I start with some cream that I have at just a simmer. I have a couple of pieces of ginger inside the cream. This is flavoring the cream, scenting the cream, you know, the way you would flavor tea. We're going to take a whisk, bittersweet chocolate chopped up, little knob of butter, and this is really the classic mixture of a ganache. A ganache, of course, is the chocolate interior of a truffle. When you bite through the light, crispy exterior, you get the beautiful melt-away, buttery interior. That's the chocolate ganache. That's what our filling is right here. So we're going to just pour that out. And I've got, as you see, just two beautiful knobs of ginger sitting in the bottom here. And that, I don't really need to use these at this point, but I've used them for flavor, and I've gotten really everything I need from them. So we're done with that. We can set that aside. We can go ahead and just whisk this until everything comes together. Satiny, smooth, rich, beautiful, bittersweet. We could make this with milk chocolate. We could make this with white chocolate, a white chocolate ganache. But I think bittersweet is the way to go. So whisk that together. The next step is to take our pie shell. Once we've cooked it in the oven, allowed it to cool, remove the foil, remove the ring. I could either pour my chocolate ganache directly into this, or if I want to go just one more step up, I can add another element of both flavor and texture. I've taken some almonds, sliced almonds, after I've melted sugar, put a big handful in the pot, poured it out immediately onto a greased piece of foil or a stickless surface, and then I've got these beautiful pieces of almond brittle. I can blend these up in the food processor, or I can chop them by hand. The result is this very, very fine, powdery almond brittle. I can make this with hazelnuts. I can make this with walnuts, almonds. What this does is going to give me this rich nut flavor that works so well with chocolate. I'm also going to have this really nice crunchy element within the center of my refrigerator tart. We don't want to leave these chunks too big. It might make it a little difficult to cut because it's like cutting through a piece of crunchy caramel. It might not work so well. So the fine little pieces on the inside, that's really all we need. Then we're ready to scrape out our beautiful ganache filling right through here. And once we've done that, it's pretty straightforward. Simply have to take this and place it in the refrigerator, cool it down. It'll take about an hour and a half, and it'll thoroughly set up, and we'll be ready to go. In the meantime, we can get our sauce ready. I'm going to take some sugar and just dissolve it here. Get it going over high heat. And what I want to do is add a fruit component to this. I like the idea of taking a fruit, cutting it up, and using the natural water content of the fruit to literally melt into the caramel itself, thereby thinning it out. So we're not really using a heavy cream. We're using some of the natural liquid that's going to come off this fruit when it goes into the melted sugar, i.e. the caramel. I've got these beautiful little Forelli pears. They have just the slightest firm texture. That means when I put them in here, expose them to the heat, they're not just going to immediately disintegrate. They're going to keep a little bit of their body, a little bit of their texture. I want to just remove that center seed element. And this will work great with a lot of different types of fruits. Cherries, of course, are great with chocolate. I can do something with apple. I could do something with raspberries. I could do something with citrus. Something like raspberries or citrus might break down. The flavor will be there. We might lose some of their texture. Cherries would hold up nicely. Something like the pear will hold up nicely. So this is a technique that has a lot of possibility. Let's cut a little bit more here. And the other thing we can do, since we've taken the time to infuse a couple of knobs of ginger in the cream, we can candy some ginger strands. Take the ginger, peel it, cut it into a fine julienne, and simply poach the julienne strands of ginger in a simple syrup, in the simple poaching syrup, and the result will be this lovely candy ginger strands. So we'll have ginger flavored ganache filling for our chocolate tart, and then we'll have ginger strands. We can reintroduce this either to the sauce or the plate. That's a nice little touch. So we stir this, let it go, and this can be done a little in advance, and we can just cool it down and hold it warm or serve it at room temperature. If we do want to serve it warm, the nice thing is we're going to end up with a temperature contrast, because our refrigerator tort is going to be, of course, chilled. This thing will be slightly warm. We'll cut these pieces down a little bit, and we've got this golden caramel. It's just about perfect, and I'm ready to, let's see, add my fruit here. Of course, that will begin to bubble. We can add some butter, and this will give it a little bit of lightness. The smell is just heavenly. It's just this wonderful little caramely, buttery aroma coming up, and the hint of pear. We can go ahead, if we want, and add some of our ginger strands here. We've got this poaching syrup, maybe a couple drops of that. Sweet ginger. And that will be ready to go. We'll simply turn it off. And at this point, we can take our tart. I have one that I've been letting sit here for about an hour and a half. It's ready to go. We'll carefully remove it here to the cutting board. And we can either serve it straight up, we can cut a piece of it and go with it, or we can dust it with powdered sugar. If we really want to drive home the chocolate factor here, why don't we just dust it with some cocoa? All these great flavors. We got the bitter chocolate shell, the little nut brittle that's on the inside, the beautifully accented ginger ganache, bittersweet flavor, and finally a dusting of this bitter cocoa around the top. I'm going to cut a wedge here, and we'll just drive the knife right on through. Very simple. Now I'm ready to plate my dish. Go ahead and take a piece. Carefully lay it on the plate. And we can come over and take some of our beautiful caramel, spoon some of the fruit out onto the plate. And the pear, we've just softened it up and added this very elegant caramel juice. Just get a couple more pieces here. We can go back and just drizzle some caramel right on the plate. And maybe go back and add a couple more strands of these pieces of ginger. They're so nice. And we can go ahead, you know, if we want to add a little bit more of the nut, kind of reintroduce some more of this wonderful brittle, we can sprinkle a little bit on. This gives it a nice little look. Plus, of course, the texture is so great. So, there we have it. All these great textures, great flavors. Pear working so well in this caramel. Bittersweet, bitter, crunchy pastry exterior. The nut element. Simple combination of flavors, but layers and layers of complexity in terms of how it's all going to hit you as you take a bite and eat it. In fact, I got to take a bite right now because I don't think I can take it anymore. That works perfectly. Of course, chocolate is hard to beat, but sometimes there's nothing like a great tropical fruit dessert. I love working with mangoes from the Caribbean. Got to smell them, make sure they're ripe, slightly sweet. They should be soft to the touch. You can get the skin off either by using a peeler, or sometimes a paring knife works even better because you can get real close. Peel the skin all the way off, and you'll notice that the shape of a mango is a little bit like a flattened football. That's the way the pit on the inside is too. So what I do is set that thing down and just run my knife just along the inside of the pit, and then we're able to take these beautiful chunks and cut them in our desired shapes. Then we want to work with a pineapple, and sometimes it's harder to tell if a pineapple's ripe, so we squeeze it a little bit, smell it, and you can tell by just plucking the leaves out. If they come out without much resistance, this is going to be a ripe pineapple. And this is very easy to cut up. Sometimes people are intimidated. They think, how am I going to get this skin off? We start by cutting off the top, cut off the bottom, so we create a stable base, and then we just let the knife glide down the sides. Just follow the edge of the skin with a knife. I use a serrated knife. It glides right through the meat of the pineapple, and skin comes right off here, and cut along the base of the pit and get these nice big pieces, easy to work with. This is how we put together a beautiful tropical dessert, emphasizing the luscious, sensual flavors of pineapple and mango. Who doesn't love pineapple? It's got to be just about the most perfect fruit with its balance of acid and sugar. It allows it to be used in savory preparations, dessert preparations, when it's ripe and succulent, field ripened, flown into the mainland. Unbelievable stuff. We're going to put together a pineapple polenta upside-down cake, a tropical preparation, very elegant, but a lot of rusticity to a dish like this. First of all, I'm going to make a few pineapple chips. I like the idea of reintroducing pineapple to this dish in the form of delicate, crispy, full-flavored, concentrated flavored chips like these. Very easy to make, and this actually works very well for a lot of different types of fruits: strawberry, pear, apple. We take these slices, thin slices of pineapple, put them on a stickless surface, sprinkle just a little bit of sugar on them, and the process is nothing more than putting them in the oven, low temperature, maybe 225 degrees, and drying the fruit out, and evaporate the water from the chips, ending up with these full-flavored, crispy, just explosive, but very delicate chips of pineapple. This becomes a little almost garnish element for the end of the dessert. So we'll pop these in the oven. These could be made in advance, and they'll keep for even a couple of days in an airtight container. We don't want to keep them near humidity, of course. They'll soften up, but we're ready to go for the next step. Very simply, we're going to take some softened butter, get it in our mixer here, sugar, and all we really want to do is beat these two things together. Doesn't take too long, maybe 30 seconds at the most. The idea is to create a nice blending, a whipping together of the sugar and the butter. I always use unsalted butter, just because it's sometimes when you buy salted butter, it ends up being too salty. We can always add a little bit of salt if we need to. Next, we're going to go ahead and add some eggs. I have 6 egg yolks, to which I'm going to add 3 whole eggs. And that's easy enough. And we'll just put these right in the mixer as well. In here with the butter and sugar. And again, we'll just lightly incorporate these things. This is also a preparation that we could make in advance. We could have our pineapple upside-down cakes cooked, kept at room temperature. We could serve them at room temperature, or we could serve them, put them back in the oven, a few minutes, warm them through, and serve them warm. The preparation here is going to be right out of the oven, so it's especially nice. We're going to take our flour, all-purpose flour that's been sifted, a little bit of coarse salt, don't need too much. I've got some baking soda here. See, I'm mixing this into the flour. The idea is I'm going to get a more thorough distribution of my finer ingredients, smaller ingredients too that may have more of a pronounced flavor. So if I can get these incorporated into the flour a little bit before mixing it in, I think I'll have a better distribution here. So we'll get our flour in to the bowl, and then we can add our polenta. This is really something that I think will surprise you if you haven't had this flavor or this combination before. People think of having a cake and having this smooth texture, and in this case we've got this elegance, this rusticity, but it's refined, but it gives this thing some body, some character that it might not normally have. So we're just going to let that go, maybe 35 seconds, and our batter's ready to go. I could certainly flavor something like this with some ginger or anise or something like that, but I think it's actually very nice straight ahead, because we're going to accompany this preparation with some mango and a little vanilla. But straight ahead, all we have is our beautiful dough, and we'll be ready to put it into our rings in a moment. We want to start with taking these little individual rings. Now, this preparation certainly will work in a large pan, but I sometimes think it's fun to serve things in an individual format. You can make a more elegant preparation, and it's not necessarily any more difficult. Yeah, it's faster to prepare one big one, but just as easy to prepare a couple of small ones here, and the results are really pretty stunning. Next, I'm going to take some pineapple pieces, and I want to cut them in a way so they'll be able to fit right into the bottom of the pan here. First thing we need to do is remove the core. This is a little bit too fibrous. We don't want this. It's not really going to cook at the same rate as the rest of the pineapple. It'll stay a little bit too firm. I'm using a little cutter here, a metal cutter. These are so versatile in your kitchen at home. I always advise people to get a set of cutters because you use them for a lot of different things, not just cutting shapes, but they're good for removing things like you just see here. We'll take another size of the cutter and make sure that it's approximately the same size, slightly smaller, as our ring mold, and this will allow us to get perfect pieces of the pineapple. They'll fit right in, just slightly smaller. Might have to use a little force pressing down here, but this is very, very ripe pineapple. I can literally, as I'm cutting this, I can smell the sweetness of this fruit. I'm going to want to save my scraps here, and we can use these somewhere else in another dessert, or we can make a salad out of those. Those are great. Next, I'm going to go and take some sugar that I've simply melted, turned it into an amber, beautiful golden color, poured it out onto a stickless surface, a pan like a stickless sheet pan, or onto a well-buttered piece of aluminum foil. Once it sets, after 15 minutes, I'm able to then chop it up with my knife or process it in a food processor, just so that it's coarsely chopped like such. This is a great way to sort of add the caramel element for the upside-down cake. We can either pour hot liquid caramel in, or if we want to be able to control it a little bit better, we can just add a little bit of this into each foil-lined mold. And that's going to literally melt and turn into a caramel as this cake bakes off. And then we're ready to go ahead with our batter. And I want to fill each mold up about halfway. And then we'll be able to place everything in a 350-degree oven. These take about 25 minutes to cook. You'll find that the pineapple is going to just, I mean, it's already got the sweetness, which is so nice, and the natural delicate acid that exists in the pineapple. But when you add the factor of caramelizing the pineapple lightly, a natural, it's going to get caramelized as we cook it because we've got the sugar in the bottom of the pan. It's really pretty amazing. So we're going to take our molds now they're lined with the caramel. They've got the pineapple in, they've got the batter in. We're able to put these in the oven. And in the meantime, we can get our sauce going for this. So I've got a pan warming up here. And we're going to take a simple syrup mixture, water and sugar melted together. We're going to pour this in the pan. And we're really going to get the whole tropical theme working here with mango going with the pineapple. I just want to soften this slightly here, cut some pieces. Going to put them in the syrup, warm them through, and then add a flavoring agent. And in this case, certainly I think everybody knows about something like vanilla extract. Simple enough to use, but when you get your hands on a vanilla bean, it's a whole nother ballgame. This is rich and sweet. I just need to cut it open, slit it. It's a pod. I want to scrape the seeds out of this. A little goes a long way, so even a half a vanilla bean will be plenty for this. We just have to stir it around with a spoon here, a wooden spoon. Get that mixed in here. And just simply a little bit of motion with the pan and with my spoon will begin to break up the thousands of specks, the little seeds that make up the vanilla. This has got to be one of the most sensual and indeed erotic aromas and flavors, I think, in all of cuisine. This now, we'll taste that. That may, you know, we've got the nice sweetness from the fruit itself and from the syrup. We might add a little interesting note with this lime, a couple drops of lime. We'll let that just sit there, staying warm, and we'll be ready to go. After 25 minutes, we can go ahead and remove our cakes, and they are ready to go. We'll set these down. All we have to do is want to be careful. This is going to be a little warm. So we'll pick this up and bring it to the side. I'm going to pull my foil down slightly, just a little bit. And with a paring knife, I really just have to sort of cut along the edges here, keeping my knife firmly against the sides, going all the way to the bottom. And I can't emphasize enough just what the polenta does to something like this. It just adds this element that you'll not believe. Let's grab our plate, and we simply turn this out and press it a little bit. Remove our foil. That's just about perfect. You can see it's just steaming and delicious, and we're ready to finish the presentation. We can take a few of our mango pieces, which are now just rich with the vanilla. Just beautiful stuff. I'm actually going to spoon some of this syrup on the plate after I add my mango pieces. Just a little bit here. Give it a little bit of richness. Set that down. I've got a little bit more of my chopped up carameled sugar. I'll put some of this on top because I want to add a little bit of ice cream. I have some, yeah, well, why don't I just put a little bit on the plate as well? That's so nice, the texture just melting into it. I've got some mango black pepper ice cream, homemade, but yeah, certainly there are some great store ice creams as well, store-made products. And what's nice here is by incorporating a little bit of pepper, I'm able to get a little heat note. So I've got mango in the form of part of my sauce, pieces of mango, and I've got black pepper. Putting this on top is going to help me from having this melt too much as I set this over here. So set that down there. And really I just need one of my pineapple chips to finish the dish. And that's all I need. And gosh, it's so simple. The flavors are so straight ahead. You'll be amazed at how they complexly weave together. This is a perfect sauterne preparation. If you've got something like Chateau Yquem, you're going to taste a little bit of heaven with this. And thanks for joining us today on the Kitchen Sessions. I look forward to seeing you next time.
The Kitchen Sessions companion book contains all of Charlie's recipes from this series, plus an addition